Hello friends, I'm Dr. Rohit Jacob. I've done my MBBS from MGM Medical College, Aurangabad. I got into MBBS in the year 2011 and passed out in the year 2017. From 2017 February to 2018 January, I was preparing for my NEET postgraduate entrance examination and currently I'm awaiting my results. Before I take you through the plan of action towards final year MBBS, let us go again through a glimpse of our first 3 years of MBBS. After giving our MHT CT or NEET UG as it is called now, जैसे हम MBBS में आते हैं, our chin is never down. हम ऐसे चलते हैं, जैसे we've already become great doctors. Our heads are high up with the pride of becoming a doctor. पर first day orientation में ही हमें पता चल जाता है that we have done or we have achieved nothing. And we feel we are overburdened with just 3 subjects: anatomy, physiology and biochemistry. पर अनाट बीडी चौरसिया देख के we are so satisfied कि हमें ग्रेज नहीं पढ़ना है. इस बुक में चलो पिक्चर्स तो है and we start reading it. पर जैसे हमें पता चलता है that in physiology we need to read chitin, हमारे होश उड़ जाते हैं because the book is so fat thick, along with that font size is very small and hardly there are any pictures. And with this physiology we are deeply troubled. But then as a savior we got Sembulingam and AKJ. Reading Sembulingam made our job much easier because there were flowcharts, font size were big enough, and each chapter was only 2 to 3 pages. But by the time we read throughout physiology, we understood that our physiology concepts were completely destroyed. Then coming to biochemistry. In case of biochemistry, we hardly made an effort because we took markings from our seniors and those markings actually saved us and not Satyanarayan himself. Then we went on to second year after passing our first year, may not be with flying colors but passing it. Then we went on to our second year. पहले तो हमें इतना रिलीफ मिल जाता है कि second year is a duration of 1.5 years. ये सुन के ही third semester becomes a honeymoon period. And literally it is a honeymoon period because maximum number of relationships accelerate during the third semester. And to top it all, we have a trip to Delhi for the Pulse Fest in AIIMS. By the time we come back, we realize that we have just 1 year to complete pharmacology, pathology, microbiology and forensic medicine. Pharmacology to chalo, KD Tripathi is fine because it is a common book for all. And we take time to read, to memorize all the classifications which actually becomes essential for a practical examination. But जैसे ही हमें pathology के बारे में पता चलता है, we open first 2-3 pages of Robbins, we read it, we get excited and we are so happy about the book of pathology that is Robbins, but later we realize that सिर्फ 1 साल है और 1 साल में इतना बड़ा book हम कैसे खत्म कर सकते हैं? And then again we look out for alternatives. And one of this alternative is Hirschman. With Hirschman, we are very happy because there are a lot of images and those diagrams which we draw during the exam, that actually feeds us with marks. But by the time we read pathology, we realize that because we have not read Robbins, our pathology concepts are also destroyed. Then coming to microbiology. Markings from seniors from Anant Narayan has always helped us and that is how we have cleared microbiology. And forensic medicine. It has been a cakewalk, although forensic medicine is itself not a cakewalk. 1 day before the exam is all we have studied. और हम तो 1 day before the exam भी movie के लिए गए हैं. We took it so lightly and that is why forensic medicine was also a mess. But somehow we passed with second year MBBS. Then coming to third year MBBS, we realized we had ENT, ophthalm and preventive and social medicine. In case of ENT, we read Dhingra. In case of ophthalm, we read AK Khurana and Parsons. And in PSM, we read Park. हर college में in third year, one subject is very difficult to pass. In case of MGM, it was ophthalm. And we had a tough time to get marks in ophthalm. But still, somehow, we managed and reached final year. जैसे हम final year में आए, we realized or we will realize that now we have just 1 year to become a full-fledged doctor. We realize that when we go out, there are relatives, there are parents who are waiting to ask us about some disease, some diagnosis, some investigation, some treatment, and we realize we know nothing. This fear actually puts us to track, and that fear should enable us to work towards our final year. And trust me, investing your time correctly in final year will fetch you not only marks but will also fetch you the right concepts to be successful. Number one, in case of medicine, I would recommend that you should use George Matthew. In case of surgery, Manipal Manual of Surgery. For OBGY, both the books of Datta, and for Pediatrics, OP Ghai. Many of you all might be thinking that why not Harrison, why not Davidson, why not Bailey and Love, why not SRB Manual of Surgery? Well, frankly speaking, I have done my final year MBBS and I feel my concepts are clear, not because I've not read Harrison or Davidson, but because by reading George Matthew is more than sufficient, and that is more than enough to cover in just 1 year. And I don't think by reading Harrison, you can cover it from page to page in just 1 year. So as I said, these are the books to be followed in case of theory. For practical, what I would recommend in medicine is Algappan, Kundu and PJ Mehta, and all three books are a must for studying medicine. For surgery, S. Das and Makhanlal, again both the books are very essential. For pediatrics, any one can be used, Mayur Chheda or Meherban Singh, and for orthopedics, Maheshwari can be used. As January is already over, you have just time from February to December that accounts for 11 months. So February you have 1 month, that's about 28 days. In case of March or April, you will be busy in gathering or research conference event or roaming around for different conferences or different events throughout various colleges in India. So in that month, you may have just 1 week to study because 1 week goes in the events, 2 weeks goes in the preparation of the event, so remaining only 7 days to study in the month of March or April. Then in the month of April, you have another 1 month. In May, 15 days you will go home, and only 15 days are remaining to study. In June or July, you will have your 8th semester examination. The exam duration lasts for about 2 weeks and the exam preparation 2 weeks prior to the actual exam duration. So 4 weeks are done. So that way in June, July, you have just both counting June and July, you have just 30 days because post-examination, you will definitely take 1 week break. Then in August, you have another 1 month. From September onwards, you have your tutorials which may start in college, or if not, you should start with your revision. So September, you have about 30 days. October, another 31 days. November, you have your prelims. In December, the last 1 month before the doomsday, that is the finals. So if you count the total of 11 months, you have about 232 days out of 365 days. Now, in between, you will have your home visits, Sundays, and your trips with your college friends. 3 Sundays per month you will be enjoying, and just 1 Sunday per month you might spend in studying. Then 3-day trip you might have every 2 months, plus you have your home visit of about 4 days once in 2 months. So if you subtract, in all, as I said, you have 232 days that accounts for 7.7 months or 8 months approximately, minus the 21 Sundays or the 21 days throughout the year, plus 9 days for your college trips, for 16 days for your home visit. So if you subtract from 232 days, the effective number of days remaining are just 186 days. That accounts for just 50% of the entire number of days in a year. One more thing which you need to remember is that out of these 186 days, the first time to study should be completed before September, and that is about 60% of your time. That is 110 to 120 days. Then 2 revisions should be done from September onwards. That accounts for 40%, that is 76 days. There are 2-3 points to remember before I actually tell you the plan of study. Number 1, open Harrison only if you feel you have the time to read it. Make notes so concise that you can revise it on the last day. There is no need to open Bailey and Love or SRB Manual of Surgery. And if you want to read only this book for surgery, make sure your notes are ready to revise before the exam. Because just before the exam, you cannot open these big fat books and read it 1 day before the exam. So your notes should be ready if you want to read such heavy books. The third point to remember is the subject lectures. In every college, there might be 2 to 3 subjects or even a single subject in case of final year where you can actually make notes in class, and these notes can be used to prepare short questions and long questions which are essential for final year MBBS. So pay attention in class if you feel you can make notes in short question and long question format in class itself. By this, you will reduce the amount of time you are giving towards notes preparation. Next thing which you need to remember is when reading medicine, you should know that you should keep your Hirschman or Robbins, whichever you have read in pathology in second year, keep it open along with your George Matthew book. With this, what you can do is add the histopathological appearance of the diseases to George Matthew itself. Do not make separate notes of George Matthew because it is not required. It will just while away your time. The George Matthew is already made in question answer format. And while reading this, you can actually add your patho notes to George Matthew, and that is more than sufficient for revising it before the exam. One more thing which you need to remember is that for every topic you read, do not only read the histopathological appearance, go through the image of that particular disease. For example, you have keratin pearls in squamous cell carcinoma. So you go through the image of squamous cell carcinoma histopathological slide, and that will show you the keratin pearls, and that will help you remember faster and for a longer time. Because visuals are much more memorable than just reading it. So see the image carefully. And next thing which I would like to recommend in case of medicine is, in topics like cardiovascular system or renal system, you have certain topics like ECG or cardiac cycle or countercurrent exchange mechanism. All these things should be revised from physiology before starting with medicine. By doing this, it will help you to enhance your concepts better. Next thing which you need to know is about reading surgery. Remember to keep your phone with you. And this phone should not be used for WhatsApp or Facebook, but to look at the images. As I said, visuals are very easy to remember. You can go through the images of a particular disease or a particular condition, and that will help you to remember the condition, the investigation, the diagnosis, and the treatment faster. And save those images if needed for future reference. Going on to reading OBGY, the notes of Datta are very essential. Datta is a very comprehensive book, so by making notes, it will help you to revise those topics faster and in a much better way. As I said, class notes, if made, can make your time duration shorter. The first 12 chapters of obstetric Datta is a must know. When you read the first 12 chapters, it actually forms the basics for the remaining chapters of Datta obstetrics. Remember to devote more time for obstetrics than gynecology. Gynecology is very scoring, but at the same time, it accounts for only a small portion of the entire OBGY. So do not neglect gynec also, do it sincerely, because gynecology can be very scoring and can be add-on to your OBGY marks. Now, reading pediatrics. Remember one thing, that half the diseases which you are going to read in pediatrics are already covered in medicine. So you need not give an extra effort towards reading the systemic pediatrics, but an extra effort is always required in reading the pediatrics from the general section. So topics like growth and development, malnutrition, neonatal diseases, neonatal resuscitation, dehydration management, pneumonia management, and all such topics from the seniors are very essential in reading pediatrics, because these topics form the basis of pediatrics and majority of the questions come from general pediatrics. Now moving towards the practical duration or the practical time which you need to give. Remember that you have a posting duration of 9 to 12, that is 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Utilize this time to the maximum. What I would recommend is, there are few things which we had done during the last few months of our postings, and I would recommend you to start at an early stage so that it can benefit you maximum. First of all, try to go a little early, that is about 8 a.m. and so your posting duration extends from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Make sure that your batch members, that is not the batch of 100 or 150, but your postings batch people, that let's say should be about 25 to 30 people, take these 25 to 30 people and ask them to come at 8 a.m. So 8 to 12 p.m. you have a good time with them. In that time, you have about 4 hours. In these 4 hours, 1 hour goes in clinical teaching, 1 hour goes in case taking, and still you have remaining 2 hours. Remember, what you can do is prepare one topic. For example, let's say in a batch of 30 students, one student prepares the topic on CNS examination. When he comes to the clinical posting, he should explain the CNS examination to all the remaining students in the batch, and in that way the CNS examination will be easily completed. And make sure that each student explains the topic in detail. When he explains it in detail with the associated conditions in which that particular test or that particular sign is seen, it will actually help you to make your concepts better and also to examine a patient better. So work out a schedule in the 2-month posting. For example, if it is medicine, OBGY or surgery, where there are 2 months posting, in these 2 months, plan out in such a way that important topics of medicine are covered. Like for example, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, GIT, central nervous system, general, examination along with associated conditions. All of these are covered in your medicine posting. Moving on to surgery postings, make sure to list out the important cases. The important cases such as hernia, hydrocele, thyroid, breast, any acute abdominal case, lipoma, cystic swellings, ulcer, etc. All these cases, it is essential that you need to know the different tests and demonstrate. So as I said in medicine, the same way you can plan out a schedule for surgery also and make sure that the students perform these tests or perform this particular topics and explain it to your fellow batchmates. One more thing which I would like to recommend in case of surgery is that let's say your college extends from 9 to 5 p.m. At 5 p.m. or any time during the day, you can go to your surgery ward and actually look out for cases which are present. For example, if you see that there is a characteristic hernia case, what you can do is just take the name of the patient. That day evening, read the examination on hernia, and next day take the case on hernia. In that way, you can actually develop your concepts in surgery. So as I said, read the examination part and then come for your postings. Moving on to OBGY postings. The most important part about OBGY clinical postings is the grips and the history taking, and finally coming to a diagnosis. History taking is the most important part of OBGY because not only will it develop your skill in OBGY, but also in your final year MBBS, that is the OBGY examination, you will have the case given as a long question and you will have to discuss the differential diagnosis along with the investigation and the treatment. In this way, you will be able to develop your concepts in OBGY better as well as able to answer the questions better. The planning towards the schedule of how to study OBGY can be done same as that in medicine, but remember to select important topics because Datta is a very vast book and all the topics cannot be covered in just 2 months. So you can categorize them as short question, long question or must know topics, and one person per day can explain in class. In case of pediatrics posting, remember that history taking format, neonatal examination, reflexes and history taking. As I said, history taking, all of these are important topics in pediatrics, and certain important topics like malnutrition or growth and development. All these topics can be discussed in class in 1 month posting, and in 1 month posting of pediatrics, you can easily complete the important topics of pediatrics. One important thing that you should know in pediatrics is that you should learn how to use growth charts, and the same planning can be done as that in medicine. Now, coming to the main part of a plan of action of how to study in your final year MBBS. Remember, as I said, out of 120 days in your 60% of the time duration that you have, that is 186 days, you have certain important topics in medicine to cover. For example, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, GIT, central nervous system, dermatology, psychiatry, endocrine, renal, hematology, etc. Out of these, hematology is one of the most difficult for many of the students. So what I recommend is keep a target of 1 unit per week. 1 unit should not include like dermatology for 1 week or psychiatry for 1 week. You should know that certain topics are short and 2 topics per week can be completed. Make sure that you are honest to yourself, and by being honest, only then you will be able to complete all the topics on time. So if I recommend, that is 1 unit per week can easily be completed in case of medicine, even if it is the first reading. Except dermatology and psychiatry, as I said, in case of dermat and psychiatry, both the topics can be covered in 1 week. As I mentioned, do not make separate notes of George Matthew. They are already in question answer format and they have been made in that way so that you will be able to remember it before the exam. Add patho details to your George Matthew notes. In case of surgery, remember to finish general surgery first and then go for systemic surgery. The important topics in surgery like thyroid, breast, hernia, liver and gallbladder, appendix, stomach and swellings. All these topics are very important and make sure that you do not read the markings. Instead, you read all the topics in these particular topics, all the subheadings in these particular topics, because any of these can be asked in your final MBBS examination. So you need to know the name, for example, epulis. So you need to know what epulis actually is. So all the topics should be covered at least once so that you know the basic concept of each and every topic. Next thing which you need to know is that in case of surgery, if you ask me whether by reading Manipal Manual of Surgery do you need to make notes, well, I would recommend notes should be made only in case of long question. Make sure that you do not write notes कि ऐसे long question लिखो, फिर CA breast के बारे में सारी details एक ही पेज में आने चाहिए. Don't do all those things. What I would recommend is you make subheadings, and in these subheadings you can actually recollect by just telling the subheadings and what are the points to be included within the subheadings. So just make a list of the subheadings under CA breast or any other topic for that matter, and in that way you will be able to remember the long question. In case of OBGY, notes are very essential, as I said. In case of obstetrics, what I would recommend is you list out the number of chapters and divide it with the number of days you have. And in that way, you will be able to complete one chapter within 1 day or 2 days. Gynecology can be completed over a span of 15 days very easily. So make notes of gynecology in short question and long question format. By that way, you will be able to revise it faster on the last day. Certain general important points which I would like to recommend is buy certain stick-on pads, sticko pads, or what we call as stick-ons. These sticko pads can actually help you in recollecting important topics which may not be restricted to your short question or long question, but it may actually build your concepts. For example, when you're reading CVS, you may suddenly not remember how is the regulation of blood pressure taking place. But the regulation of blood pressure is a very important topic as it controls the major reflexes within the body. So regulation of blood pressure by baroreceptor or chemoreceptor mechanism, you can make a sticko pad and stick it on your wall. With that, you will be able to remember that topic better, and by reading it daily or revising it every alternate day or within a short span of time, you will be able to build your concepts better. How to revise all these sticko pads? Remember that you should revise it once a week initially for the first 2 months. After 2 months, you can revise it twice a week. After 4 months, you can revise it thrice a week. By doing this, revision periodically or revising it periodically can actually help you to remember that topic better, and that way you will be able to do well in your final MBBS. One more thing which I would like to recommend is you make a team of 3 to 4 people. By making a team of 3 to 4 people, a group discussion is always effective. But if you feel that group is not working out or performing better, then you should stop the group discussion. As I said, be honest to yourself. If you are honest to yourself, then only you will be able to perform better. Complete your target and then only sleep. Because if you have not completed your target, you will not get that sense of satisfaction. And that sense of satisfaction is so immense that I'm telling you, you should try it for 1 day, keep a target and complete it and then only sleep. The smile which will be there on your face would actually be glowing. Now, how to set up targets? Make sure that you do not keep impossible targets. At the same time, do not keep mild targets. Set appropriately. How do you set appropriately? When you start actually setting your targets, you will come to know that the first day the target which you set was impossible to achieve. Second day you set a small target and you found out that only few things were covered within the entire time of the day. So eventually you will understand as to how much your target should be and how much capability you have in completing how many topics per day. Now, whenever you set a particular timetable, make sure that you make a schedule weekly. Do not make a schedule for 1 month or for an entire year or for a span of 6 months. It is not going to work. Because जैसे ही हम 1 week खत्म करते हैं, कोई एक दिन छूट जाता है and that day spoils your entire schedule for the next 2 weeks or next 3 weeks. So make sure you make a schedule for 1 week. Make sure that you devote daily 5 to 6 hours of study time, and I'm sure that 5 to 6 hours is sufficient. If you feel 5 to 6 hours is too much, then you can devote 4 hours, but that 4 hours should be completely towards studying. No taking your phone in between, no looking at WhatsApp, no looking at Facebook, although I also did all these things. But what I would recommend is you try your level best to not do such things. So daily about 4 to 5 hours or 5 to 6 hours of study is more than sufficient. Now, how do you manage your time? Let's say you have a college duration of about 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. After you come back, you have 2 hours break, and from 7 onwards, you sit to study. From 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., you have 4 hours. And in the morning from 5 a.m. to 6:30, you have 1.5 hours. So in that way, you can easily study for 5 to 6 hours duration. For night owls, what I would recommend is you come by 5 p.m., sleep for about 2 to 3 hours, and start studying by 8 p.m. From 8 to 11 p.m. you can study, that is for about 3 hours. Then from 11:30 to 1:30 you can study after taking a half an hour break for 2 hours. So you have a span of about 5 to 6 hours of study. Trust me, you have sufficient span of time during the day, so do not while away your time or do not think that you have less time. Even the topper gets 24 hours, even you have 24 hours, even you have the capability to perform very well. The last point which I would like to tell you is, make sure that you stick on your wall certain proverbs, certain motivational quotes. This will actually help you to keep your, memento a little stronger. For example, the quote which I had put on my wall includes, all the late nights and early mornings will pay off. A dream doesn't become reality through magic. It takes sweat, determination, and hard work. Don't downgrade your dream to fit your reality. Upgrade your conviction to match your destiny. By putting these quotes actually helped me to do well in my final MBBS as well as to study and work hard for my NEET postgraduate entrance examination. So I hope this video was helpful for each and every student who is preparing for final year MBBS, and I would really appreciate it if you could give your valuable feedbacks, and it would be accepted wholeheartedly. Thank you so much.